Hello, everybody, and welcome to another lesson. Now that you've learned hiragana and katakana, today we're gonna see some useful words and expressions that you can use in your daily life. Let's begin. Let's start with some greetings. We have one that you've probably heard a lot in animes or probably in some dramas. Ohayo gozaimasu, which means good morning. It also has its shorter version, ohayo, which means also good morning, but it's informal. So if we were talking to a teacher, or if we were talking to like an adult person, like older than us, we would probably say ohayo gozaimasu. But if we're talking to our friends or our family, you would just probably say ohayo. We also have konnichiwa, which basically means good afternoon. So like during the morning, we're gonna use ohayo gozaimasu, and usually afternoon, we're gonna use konnichiwa. In this case, even though we have the ha, we're gonna read it as wa. So have that in mind, if in case it confuses you a little bit. So again, it's not konnichiha, it's konnichiwa. Then we have good evening, konbanwa. Again, the same rules applies. Even though it's a ha, we're gonna pronounce it as a wa. So, konbanwa. This means good evening. So usually when it gets dark, instead of saying konnichiwa, we're going to start saying konbanwa. Okay, then we have oyasumi, which means good night. This is only used when you are going to bed. We don't use it as a greeting. Like if we're meeting a friend, like at night for like some dinner or something, we don't use oyasumi. We could use it when we say goodbye, like oyasumi, like have a good night, like like when people are just going to bed. Also, I forgot to add, we have another version of this, which is oyasumi nasai, which is the formal version of oyasumi. Oyasumi is how we would say it to our family and to our friends. But if we were talking probably, I don't know, we go on a school trip and we're talking to the teacher and we want to say like good night, we would say oyasumi nasai. Nasai. Oyasumi nasai. Yeah, so again, this is the informal version. Oyasumi nasai is the formal version. Have that in mind when using it. Especially if you're gonna stay probably with a host family or something like that. Okay, then we have some useful phrases. We have, for example, ittekimasu. This is a phrase that we use when we're leaving the house. It literally means I'm leaving. And it also means that I will be back. So usually, I don't know, if you're leaving for school, you're leaving for work, and like there's someone home, you just say ittekimasu, like I'm going, I'll be back soon. So yeah, this is the expression that they use for that. You probably heard it a lot in animes and stuff. And the person who basically is gonna greet you when you're leaving will say itterashai, which basically means take care. It doesn't have a direct translation, like a literal translation, but it's usually a way of like wishing you a good day or saying, like have a good day or take care. So that's how we're gonna like translate it. Itterashai. Then when we get back home, we would use tadaima, which literally means I'm home, I'm back. So again, after you've been out of your house for a while and you come back, you just go into your house and say tadaima. And the person who greets you at home, whether it's your family, friends, whatever, it's at home, just gonna say like okaeri nasai, which is the formal way, the long way, okaeri nasai. Or in a more friendly tone, they can just say okaeri, welcome back, informal. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even though this is like used, for example, for when like we leave the house, we can also use it for like tiny things. Like for example, I don't know, I'm with my friends at lunch and I'm just saying, hey, I'm going, to like the store to buy something. I'm like, itakimasu, like I'll like I'm leaving, I'm gonna go and I'll be back later. And they was usually also say iterashai, like okay, like take care. And then when you're back, you can just say tadaima, even if it's not home, even if you're just like coming back to your group of friends and hanging out with them. Again, it's not strictly used for when you're home. You can also use it for situations like that. Like again, like if you're at school or university or at work, if you're going out to buy something, you just can say, hey, I'm leaving. They will like greet you. And when you come back, you can say, tadaima, I'm back. And they usually would just tell you, okaeri, like welcome back. Again, even if you are just at work, it doesn't have to be exactly like your house. So yeah, have that in mind. Then we have sayonara, which literally means goodbye. Then we have something a little bit more informal, ja mata, which means, okay, till next time, see you again, basically. It's a little bit more informal. Sayonara, it's basically means goodbye. Again, like usually when you use sayonara, you don't know where you're gonna see the person next time, it's just like goodbye. You could be seeing them tomorrow to in a month. You don't know. You're not specifying that, so have that in mind. When you say jamata, it's kind of the same concept, but it's a little bit more informal. It's like jamata, like hey, till next time, like I'll see you around. Again, you're not specifying when you're meeting them. There are a lot of ways for you to just like specify. For example, if we wanted to say I'll see you tomorrow, we could say ja mata ashita. Ashita, ashita, which means tomorrow. So mata ashita would mean, okay, see you tomorrow, for example. So ja mata means see you again. If we added something at the end, it would probably like specify the time when we are seeing the person again. So have that in mind when you're using it. Then we have oyasumi nasai. Oh yeah. In this case, this is the one that I was talking about. Sorry, I get the slides got a little bit mixed up. But yeah, oyasumi nasai. Remember that it is for formal situations, like when we are like, for example, again, we go on a trip with our coworkers and stuff, or like our teachers if we're students, and we want to wish like good night to them when they're going to sleep. We don't use oyasumi, the short version, and oyasumi. We'll use like oyasumi nasai, as a sign of showing respect to them. So have that in mind. If you're planning a trip to Japan, whether it's an exchange, whether you're traveling just for fun or whatever, like it's good to know when it's important to talk to people with the formal versions of the phrases, because in Japan they really, really appreciate people, like embracing that part of the culture, which is like having respect to your elders and towards people that have a little bit of a higher hierarchy than you. Yeah. And yeah, the short version, oyasumi. Then we have some expression that you probably know right now, which is arigatou gozaimashita, which means thank you in a formal way. Arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you very much. Thank you in a formal way. And then we have arigato, which means also thank you, but it's informal. So yeah, again, like usually arigatou gozaimashita or arigatou gozaimasu, it's the formal version, a little bit more longer. Or arigato, it's one that we can use with our friends, family, again, like people who are just closer to us. And then usually when saying you're welcome, you could use do itashimashite, which again is like a formal, longer version, like, oh, you're welcome, no problem, like domo itashimashite. Or you could use just the short version, domo, which also means you're welcome, and it's informal. Again, this one I would use, again, with my family or my friends. I wouldn't use with like just anybody. It's usually like, oh, thank you. And, like, usually you're welcome would be do itashimashite, and domo would be more like, no problem, like, it's fine. And then we have another expression, which is itadakimasu, which literally means thank you for the food, or I'll receive the food. And this one, we say it before we eat. It's a way of thanking, again, like whether it's the person who cooked for the food or just like being, like grateful for the fact that we are able to like eat something that night or that, I don't know, afternoon, whatever the time it is, right? So we just say itadakimasu before eating our food. And once we're done and we want to thank somebody for the food, we just say gochisousama deshita. It's a little bit long, I know, but gochisousama deshita, which means thank you for the food. And it's used after you've done eating. So yeah, if somebody, like invites you to lunch or something, or if you're eating a home cooked meal by your friend or stuff, you can just say "gochisousama deshita" once you're, like done. A lot of people can shorten it to "gochisousama," but again, like it's not that bad. "Gochisousama deshita." Thank you very much for the food. A lot of people also say it like if you're living like a small, like a restaurant or something, it's like gochisousama deshita, and you just live and say it out loud as a way of like appreciation for like the food. Arigatou gozaimashita. Yeah, that would be it for today's lesson. I hope these expressions were useful to you guys. Again, if you have any kind of questions, you can always write to me on the Discord, which is in the description below. Also, I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Have you heard any of these expressions? Did you know them? Are there any expressions that were new to you? I'm really curious to know. I hope you can also like got to like read them all because they were all in hiragana. As I mentioned, we were gonna start reading with hiragana in Japanese. We are not using romaji because I want you guys to like learn the proper way. And romaji doesn't really help you learn because you will always depend on it if you don't learn how to read hiragana properly. But yeah, I also wanted to say, guys, that I usually stream on Twitch at 5 p.m. EST around 3 times a week. So if you would like to just like stop by and say hi, just like meet me and like just meet my community, I would really appreciate it if you could stop by some other time. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. I will see you around next time. Thank you very much for being here. Bye!